we are talking about, we're talking about dumb things that camera companies are still doing, but are they
really dumb? This is the question. Yeah, DSLRbodies.com, this guy, he's well known. I don't know his exact name offhand, but he wrote an article basically trying to rag on the manufacturers for very specific use cases.
Well, first there was a story that phones are killing cameras, and they might have for casual photographers.
Yeah.
And then the second story is that, I've just been, as I'm following cameras are just getting better and better, and they are really outpacing phones in some ways. So then I read this, and it sounds like the way that this DSLRbodies.com author is writing, they're still making a lot of...
He thinks that they're still making a lot of mistakes.
And you think they're not?
Well...
You want to get into it, or...?
Let's just, first off, Nikon, I think he's a Nikon guy, and I also use Nikon. And he was not extremely positive about the Nikon D850, which is the new one. And in my opinion, it has pretty much 99% of what most people would want. And it's $3,000, around that.
Okay.
So you're talking extremely high-end cameras. But if you can step another level above that, and those are $5,000, whatever, $6,000, this $3,000 camera has a lot of features from the most expensive, super high-end, super fast sports cameras. Mm-hmm. And it also can let you change the raw image size down to 25 megapixel instead of the 40 whatever. So you have so many perfect situations for so many photographers in this one camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you say high-end, it's obviously more expensive than a phone, but this is bought by a lot of people who are into photography or something like that.
Yeah, this is bought by high-level hobbyists. It's bought by professionals, wedding photographers especially. I mean, landscape, whatever, because it has a really high megapixel count.
Okay.
And it's full frame, which is the standard film size. So let's get into some of the things that he was mentioning.
Okay.
The first one that I'm really going to complain about is the Swiss mount system. It's some third-party system of mounting. I've never used them, but I see the prices of them, and we're talking hundreds of dollars for a metal mount.
Why does he think that's important?
Because they're high-end, and because I assume he uses them exclusively and for very specific needs. A lot of people do use them, but the problem, if you want to integrate a quick connect mount into a camera, licensing fees, that's huge. So you're not going to have these companies, you're not going to have a lot of customers want this and accept having to pay more for the camera just to get a special mount.
Yeah, don't you think that when the mount is one of the main advantages of a camera over a phone, just having one that people are going to use is more important than having the right one? Or
yeah. The standard mount that it has is just a regular tripod mount. I think it's 1/4 inch or whatever. Mm-hmm. It works well, and it's very standardized. So you can connect a multitude of things to the camera, and it just works. Okay. Now, I agree with him in one way because of the... you can have some shift. If you attach like a quick connect mount to the camera, it can potentially shift left and right because there's one screw hole. And there are ways to get around it, which I think camera companies could easily implement, is just put a hole as well as a second hole. It can be a screw, but video tripods specifically have this little spring-loaded knob, but whatever, that comes out. You've got the tripod screw, and then you've got a little spring-loaded thing that comes out. So they're straight on, and that way you're not going to have that left and right turning accidentally. So camera companies could easily implement a very simple solution, as in a hole at the bottom of the camera.
Too simple. It makes too much sense.
Yeah,
I guess
I would be on board with that. Not these Swiss mounts.
Okay. How about the optical remotes? Is that important to you?
Yeah. His reasoning here is pretty solid. There are some issues with optical remotes. I'm fine with keeping them in there, but if there were some type of Bluetooth remote system, I think that would work better in practice because it's relatively long range, at least the newer versions. Mm-hmm. And it's radio frequency instead of light. So you won't get the signal easily blocked. So that's a decent idea there.
Maybe with Bluetooth 5 coming up in the next couple of years, that will be a tipping point for a camera.
Yeah, I think actually the D850 has both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. It uses the Bluetooth to keep connected to whatever device, and so it's quick. And then it uses the Wi-Fi to push more data back and forth.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that technology is already there. I don't know if there is actual Bluetooth triggering in any camera.
How about his next complaint, though, is slow Wi-Fi. Do you think that's important?
I have Wi-Fi on my Nikon D750. I think I've used it once. But I also have it on my Fujifilm X100F, which I've used multiple times, and it's very nice. I like being able to push stuff to a phone or maybe potentially push it to a computer, which I think moving forward, it would be nice to have faster Wi-Fi just because. I could see uses where it's used instead of... do you know what tethering is?
Tethering for Wi-Fi?
No, tethering for the camera to a computer. So it's basically connecting a computer to a camera, so you push the images to the computer automatically as you're taking photos.
Sure. And
he brings this up. There are issues with the cord because people trip on them, and then they have these weird gangly attachments to the cameras. So makes it safer, so you don't damage the camera if it gets pulled. There's a lot of stuff which I'm agreeing with him there on. Mm-hmm. I do think moving forward, if Wi-Fi technology in these cameras was good enough, a full tethering solution just on Wi-Fi would be great. I don't know offhand if there are any companies doing that, but most of them you can adjust camera settings. You can take photos through Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. So actually, somewhat recently, I was doing a family thing, and my sister had her Canon consumer level camera, and then she used her phone to take a picture of the whole group family. And we just had the camera out there, and then we used the Wi-Fi connection to take a picture. So it's there, it works. It's just not, I assume, as fast as or as featureful as this guy wants.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering. I saw him mention that, a lot of these Nikons have 802.11 BG, which is, the standard from several years ago.
Yeah.
And then 2.4 gigahertz, which again is the older, slower, but longer range, Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
There are, now, I know at my house, my Wi-Fi is 5 gigahertz, and I have a hidden 2.4 for one device in the house, and I would love to get rid of it. So I can kind of understand if that's holding people back.
I still have a lot of 2.4 devices. Maybe Apple's pushing forward faster than other companies.
They are. In my case, it's a scale, like a smart scale.
Okay.
That only uses 2.4. And I think it only uses G as well.
Okay.
But Apple, of course, is great at this stuff, but, there are a lot of... I can't say that other consumer devices are much better about having the latest Wi-Fi radio in there.
Yeah, it's just a cost thing, too. These manufacturers have to find a perfect balance to appeal to as many people as they want, or... one bad thing that a lot of the camera companies do is pick a certain target, and then they limit the feature set, even though they have the technologies. And so that's kind of an issue that I think Nikon bucked that trend with their D850 because it has so much in it.
You're talking about segmenting where...
Yeah, segmenting their cameras.
Sure.
So this one's a consumer camera, and we're going to not let you adjust the aperture in video mode, live view video mode, which some of them do that, can't do it. So actually one of my cameras, it was $2,000 when I bought it. It can't adjust the aperture when the live view is on. Yeah.
Seems like a big limitation.
Yeah, but that was D600, and then the D750 that I have can do it. So they're improving, but
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, segmentation is a powerful motivation, and I do appreciate, when you buy higher end, I do appreciate that segmentation keeps my costs down because it lets them sell to people who wouldn't be interested in the higher end.
Yeah.
But
potentially keeps costs down. Sometimes it's even software that they eliminate with software.
Mm-hmm. That's a whole other topic right there.
So another one you mentioned is fast memory cards. I feel like this is a very specific use case for him. I don't know if he does sports or something, but both of my cameras, I don't know the spec on them, but they're fast enough with memory cards, and I don't buy the fastest ones. I'm not in situations where I need a huge amount of data throughput. Mm-hmm. When we do fully move to 4K video, which neither of my cameras do 4K video, you do need higher transfer rates. He mentions the SD cards, there's UHS ratings. There's 1, 2, and there's actually a 3 now. And he was talking about getting 2 in cameras. Well, guess what? The D850 has UHS 2 support. It also has XQD cards, which are an extremely high transfer rate, Sony-based card. So that, I feel like that camera totally destroys his argument. I don't know what he was talking more about the semi-prosumer level Nikons, which are down the line.
I see.
Yeah, so I don't know.
That once again seems like something most people wouldn't notice.
Yeah, but I can assure him or whoever that the D850 has UHS 2 in this SD card slot.
So that's good.
Yeah, another one. I don't know if he specifically mentioned, but USB charging, which I'm on board with. Mm-hmm. My Fujifilm camera has USB charging, but it also came with a charger. That means I can charge 2 batteries. So if I'm at a convention and I use a battery throughout the day and then I switch it, at the end of the day, I can charge both batteries at the same time, which is nice. Because I'll leave one in the camera and then charge one in the charger. He was criticizing companies for not including chargers, which I'm totally agreeing with him about.
Sure.
They should always include a charger and not cheap out on something that simple.
I agree, but that seems very similar to a lot of other electronics where as long as you hit the threshold where people are able to have the battery life for as long as they need, it doesn't really matter if they do it as well as you would like them to.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
The 2 chargers is a good one.
So I think my biggest things about the manufacturers and what I want is ergonomics is the huge thing. Cameras are so similar these days, but ergonomics between manufacturers, you want something that works well for you. You want something that, at least in my opinion, has a lot of tactile control to it. Otherwise, you don't want to be fumbling through menus. So even if the camera has an amazing menu system, if it has a touch screen, that helps a lot. The touch screens, recent cameras do have them. The D850, it has a touch screen. It's good. And
this D850 sounds like
the magical camera. I've never used one. I haven't touched it yet.
One day.
Yeah. But even with that, I really like the tactile controls, the buttons, the knobs. I call them photographer cameras. The Fujifilm X100 that I have, it's very tactile. It's a smaller camera, and it just works. It's nice in that respect. But besides that, I want reliable function to it. So autofocus is always an issue, even in little ways. He mentioned he wants more autofocus information in the viewfinder and such, which I agree with him there.
Sure.
It's definitely good, such as he was talking about, I think, depth of field. It'll give you numbers and things, which is really good for the high-end photographer. I can see some difficulties maybe implementing all of that data. Where you're going to put it on the screen, I don't know. But
yeah, I kind of wondered if maybe as screen sizes go down and cost, or the size goes up and the cost goes down, that will
it might be
out.
Easier eventually with all the mirrorless cameras because it's just a digital screen. It's not an optical. DSLR is optical. It has a mirror inside, and it has like a LCD screen that projects through the viewfinder. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Once you can just go all display there, that'll be.
Yeah, but autofocus is something manufacturers always need to continuously improve on. Nikon, I was surprised their D500 actually has a feature where it automatically tunes focus for each lens. Now it needs to be improved because zoom lenses don't necessarily have the same properties between the zoom range. So if you're at 28 millimeters or you're at 100 millimeters, there could be some variation. So moving forward, hopefully Nikon improves that feature to give you more flexibility, to basically give you as reliable autofocus as possible. But these come as, I keep saying, these companies are improving. Maybe it's not as fast as he wants, but they are continuously adding stuff. That kaizen approach is very reflective of their culture and their companies.
Absolutely. Yeah, my takeaway was that the way he wrote it, it was like a big wake-up call to the industry. But most of his complaints were about he wanted...
Specific use cases.
Yeah, it's like you should be 3 incremental improvements ahead, and you're only at 2 ahead. That's not really a disaster, I guess.
Like
is the way
the
I see
memory
it.
cards.
Yeah. It's really no different than complaining that a phone, you want a 6-inch phone and you can only get a 5.5 inch or whatever people gripe about.
Yeah.
So overall, reading it left me still feeling pretty good about the state of the high-end camera industry.
Now, I think eventually DSLRs will probably go away and it'll be all the mirrorless cameras, but we'll see when or how that's going to happen.
Sure. And meanwhile, all the other things that are kind of irrelevant to that change are going to continue to exist and improve.
But as we are now, Nikon released the perfect DSLR for most people.
The 850?
Yeah.
Nikon, you heard it here.
Oh, yeah.
This is not sponsored anymore. Unfortunately, this is not sponsored by Nikon.
Yeah. Nikon, just send me one for testing.
We're working on that.
Yeah.